On April 4th, 2017, renowned zombie-slaying franchise Dead Rising disappeared from public eye. After making a surprise reappearance on June 13th in 2016 at E3, released later that year in December, to very mixed reviews, and a negatively received DLC ending, Dead Rising vanished just as soon as it had reappeared. It's been 8 years since Dead Rising 4, and a major question that most people have is, where is this franchise? Did one game really ruin the legacy that is Dead Rising? Dead Rising first released in 2006 for the Xbox 360, created by Keiji Inafune and developed and published by Capcom. Initially developed as a sequel to the failed Shadow of Rome, Inafune sought to create a game aimed specifically for the Western market. At the time, Capcom had just released a little game you may or may not have heard of, and it's not really that well known, called Resident Evil 4, and while everyone else was off writing their Leon X Ramon fanfics, Inafune had one big critique of the game that would become a core part of Dead Rising's design philosophy. Resident Evil 4 featured a new kind of zombie. They were running and talking and holding weapons. Nothing against that at all. I love RE4, but I was thinking that old traditional type of zombie game might go away. So I wanted to create a game with a more traditional zombie as well, where they were really the star over any other main character. Inafune loved the classic, slow, walking corpse zombie, and the goal was to basically take one of these classic old zombie films and turn it into a video game. He wanted to create a 1 versus 1000 game, where the player could see a visual hopelessness that would be all the more rewarding when the player overcame that hopelessness. To achieve this, Dead Rising aimed to take full advantage of the next generation hardware of the 360. Reviews prior to release stating that there could be up to 800 zombies on screen at once. Now, that doesn't sound all too impressive nowadays, but back then this shit was blowing minds left, right, and center. It was crazy. Having this many zombies on screen at once helped to create that visual hopelessness that Inafune was envisioning. Dead Rising was unique, and that's why people loved it so much. Fantastic! Dead Rising follows protagonist Frank West, a freelance photojournalist always looking for the next big scoop and taking the biggest risks to get that scoop, who receives a tip-off that something big is about to happen in the small town of Willamette, Colorado. As he flies over via helicopter, he initially believes the commotion to be that of a riot, and asks the pilot to drop him off on top of the Willamette Mall and come back and get him in 3 days once he has the scoop. Upon arrival, he's immediately met with a very handsome man who tells him that he's essentially just entered hell. And in exploring a bit more in the mall, he finds out that this is no riot, but a zombie outbreak. The mall is the last safe haven in the town, and while Frank is immediately put to work to go find stuff to barricade the entrance with, of course, something goes wrong, and the mall is breached and infested with zombies. Now Frank, along with some other survivors, must work together in order to uncover the truth of what happened here and escape the mall. Now, it would be a sin to make a Dead Rising video and not talk about the game's atmosphere, setting, and aesthetics first, which are some of its best qualities. The game takes place entirely within the Willamette Parkview Mall, which is bright and colorful, and each area feels visually distinct from each other. It feels like a genuine mall that could exist, you know, and the work that went in to make it feel like this shows quite clearly. There are small details everywhere that make it feel like a real mall that people would have gone to. Even with the unfolding events of a zombie outbreak, the mall still works on its timer. It plays calm, soothing, generic mall music during the day before shutting off all the lights at night, getting ready to close up. The mall during the day perfectly juxtaposes what's happening in the game. You're in a life or death situation, a nightmare scenario. One wrong move can cost you everything, and you have something big that you need to uncover. All the while, this shit's playing in the background. Nighttime is when the silly juxtaposition turns to genuine horror. The lights turn off dramatically, there's no music anymore, everything's dark, and the zombies are now stronger and have glowing fucking red eyes. It's actually genuinely terrifying because not only is it hard to see, but Now the threat is way higher, kinda feels like you're a security guard rounding up all the stragglers past closing. I survived 24 hours overnight in Willamette Parkview Mall, Colorado. Security found me? The mall really does capture America through the lens of a Japanese development team. It achieves a lot of what made shopping malls fun and exciting to go to, that feeling that there was infinite fun to be had. And the very nature of Dead Rising's gameplay being exploration and experimentation, it's a perfect fit. After getting to the safe room, Frank is introduced to Brad and Jesse, who talk to him briefly but don't tell him anything. Frank's natural intuition tells him there's a much bigger story here, and within this small prologue, the game draws attention to 3 key figures who are integral to the plot. The 3 figures are Dr. Russell Barnaby, Carlito, and Isabella, who appear to know quite a bit about what's going on here. Determined to get the story, Frank engages in a frustrating game of cat and mouse with Carlito and Isabella, eventually wearing Isabella down to start helping them out, revealing her and Carlito are siblings. Gradually, portions of information are revealed to Frank as to why this is all happening. Prior to the Willamette outbreak, the American government was using the Central American town of Santa Cabeza as a testing ground to try and solve a meat shortage. Led by Dr. Russell Barnaby, they discover an insect that resembled an oversized wasp, which they named the Ampulex compressor giganteus. The insect will kill anything that it latches onto by consuming its brain tissue, and then having it reanimate as a zombie through infection. Queens of the species in the larva stage produce a power hormone that stimulate the host's appetites, leading them to consume things they wouldn't normally consider food. The researchers plan to utilize this power hormone to stimulate the appetites of cattle to produce fatter cows, and solve the meat shortage problem. Of course, when something weird and fucked up is found in fiction, it immediately escapes confinement and starts wreaking havoc. The wasp started to escape the facility and infect residents of Santa Cabeza, causing the first outbreak. The American government then dispatches the military to conduct cleanup and destroy the town and erase any evidence of what happened. Dr. Barnaby and his team are extracted from the town before destruction, with the only residents surviving being Isabella and Carlito. Carlito is rightly pissed about his hometown being destroyed, and as revenge, released the Ampulex compressor giganteus on the town of Willamette to cause a similar outbreak to the one that ruined Santa Cabeza. He wants to punish the American people for letting their gluttony overtake human life. As the game goes on, eventually Carlito mentions the last resort, which is revealed by Isabella that if he were backed into a corner, he would blow the mall up with bombs filled with the parasitic larvae that would eventually spread and infect the entire nation. Fucking alright. After putting a stop to his plans and then trying to save him from Larry the Butcher to keep him alive and get some info, and then having a surprisingly emotional scene with Carlito in his final moments, special forces arrive to clean up and cover up the situation, much like Santa Cabeza. With everyone else either dead or escaped, it's only Frank and Isabella in the mall, and realizing that this is Santa Cabeza all over again, Isabella urges Frank to escape, opting to stay behind, dejected and hopeless. There are a couple of different endings that can play out for the game, but let's focus on the canon one, ending A. At this point, Frank has solved all the game's cases and talked to Isabella at her hideout where she urges him to escape, and now waits patiently at the helipad for the pilot to come back. Crazily enough, the pilot actually does come back, and seeing Frank alive believes that means he got his big story, and can take some credit for helping him out. On the way to go get him, a zombie has snuck on board and bites the pilot, crashing the helicopter into the clock tower. Frank sees all of this unfold and then drops to his knees. With all hope truly lost, zombies begin to shuffle towards him, and he does not move. Damn! Like damn! And this is the ending you're meant to get! The other endings aren't all that better either. The only positive one is ending B, but that requires you to not finish all of the game's cases, but still be at the helipad on time. Frank and the other survivors do manage to escape, as in this ending the pilot is not bitten mid-flight. However, Frank does not have enough information to reveal the conspiracy theory, and soon after, several cities across the nation fall to the zombie outbreaks. Ending C requires you to solve all the cases but not talk to Isabella. The pilot is seen searching for Frank where he is nowhere to be seen. As he calls it off and tries to leave, he is bit by a zombie and dies. Frank's whereabouts are unknown. Ending D requires you to be held captive by special forces when the timer runs out. The special forces soldiers show Frank that escape is futile, as the helicopter takes off with Frank as their prisoner, his fate left ambiguous. Ending E requires you to not solve all the cases and not be at the helipad on time. The pilot is looking out for Frank, but sees Otis come out with all the survivors. They all board the helicopter and make their escape. Frank's whereabouts once again unknown. However, ending A is what we want, as it's the canon ending and allows us to unlock overtime mode, which picks up exactly where ending A left off. Just as a zombie is about to bite Frank, Isabella shows up and saves him, where he then passes out. Isabella somehow carries him back to her hideout. By the way, can we just take a moment? How the fuck did she do that? She went from here all the way here and was fine? I don't fucking believe that. She then informs him that he's infected and will turn soon. I wonder how that happened. Who would have thought? How the fuck did it? How did you get infected, Frank? Fucking shocker! The only chance they have to stop the process is to create a suppressant with supplies in the mall and a bunch of queens. Isabella knows that this is possible as Carlito had her manufacture this suppressant back in the day. This won't cure Frank, however, but it will at least keep him human for now. Isabella remembers Carlito's volunteer work with an NPO with the goal of rehoming orphans of war. Carlito managed to rehome 50 of them. What a great guy, you know? You're not all that bad, Carlito. What a great guy. But then Isabella reveals that he had her make 50 doses of this suppressant back in the day. Oh, that doesn't sound good, huh? Carlito infected these 50 orphans with the virus and then administered each of them the suppressant and rehomed them across the country, each state having their own ticking zombie time bomb. The ultimate revenge for Santa Cabeza. This dude was fucking insane! They managed to escape through a massive tunnel underneath the clock tower that the pilot crashed into, using a pheromone to deter the horde of zombies within. Isabella and Frank then come face to face with Brock Mason, the leader of the Special Forces cleanup for both Willamette and Santa Cabeza. The final fight takes place atop Brock's tank, surrounded by zombies in a one-on-one fistfight with Brock. Frank wins with pure determination, and it's explained that he and Isabella managed to escape, and while the government did take some responsibility for the Santa Cabeza incident, there was no evidence to tie it and the Willamette incident together, allowing them to attribute it to fringe terrorism. As 2011 comic Dead Rising, Road to Fortune, explains that once they escaped, Isabella was taken in by the DHS as a terrorist, and Frank was given the ultimatum to either expose the story or be lumped together with her as a conspirator. Frank never saw Isabella again, and the public soon let the incident fade from their minds. And yet he complained that his belly was not full. I still fucking hate this. Not because it's like a bad ending or anything like that. You should put red text on a black screen. It fucking gets scary. You can put fucking anything and red text on a black background. It's gonna be fucking scary. Look. Are you fucking terrified? Dead Rising's story is pretty damn good. It's a kind of absurd scenario presented with 100% seriousness from every character involved. The initial premise of zombies in the mall is fun enough, but then it just completely goes off the deep end with a nationwide conspiracy theory about terrorism with wasps as a result of a fucking meat shortage experiment. Like, Isn't that just fucking interesting? However, being presented seriously doesn't mean that the game is devoid of humor. Most of the humor that you can find in Dead Rising isn't because the characters are consistently throwing jokes at you, but it's because the way they react to the scenarios they're given is just kind of a bit realistic, as well as very blunt and dry.
Try to get close to the target, okay?
And what am I supposed to do when I get close?
Well, the best solution would be to shoot the guy.
The fact that Dead Rising takes itself so seriously is why I love the story so much. It doesn't let up for a second that this is a serious situation, and wants you to view it as such. While it does allow its dry and satirical dialogue to break up tension, the mystery at play keeps you on the edge of your seat, wondering how it all comes together, only to keep throwing you curveballs just when you think it's over. The story and the way it's presented is captivating, and really keeps you engaged all throughout. The setting itself, like I mentioned earlier, is also just entertaining. It's the perfect juxtaposition to the dark story that's taking place here. Not to mention, it's also a pretty good commentary on American greed and escalating gluttony. It revolves entirely around how society's greed and want for more can bring about catastrophe, but even when it brings on that catastrophe, it doesn't seem to stop there. There's also no mistaking the symbolism of zombies in the mall. Slow, dull, wandering aimlessly, just looking to consume. But they're also a representation of the notion of messing too much with nature brings disastrous results. It's a great story, but a great story also needs a great protagonist and supporting cast as well. Frank West, at the beginning of the story, is kind of unlikable. He's clearly only here for the scoop and seems pissed off whenever something gets in the way of that scoop. He's just a guy here to do his job and get that story. During development, Inafune wanted to avoid making another beautiful, shiny, and young person as a protagonist. Rather, he wanted to make the protagonist just an average sort of person. Frank West isn't a traditional video game protagonist by any means. In any other game, you could very easily mistake him for just being a normal boring ass NPC. But that's kind of what I like about him. He's just a normal dude here to do his job, but now forced to escape this hellish nightmare scenario. He also has grounded and realistic reactions to the events in-game. When he sees the helicopter that was supposed to save him crash and burn at the finish line, he doesn't immediately look for a second option or try to find a new way out. He just crumbles to his knees in defeat, like any normal person would. When psychopaths die, he watches on in horror, nothing really to say about it. He also has a few genuinely emotional scenes in the game that let Frank become more than just a hot-headed reporter. All of this and Frank's character is brought to life through his voice actor, Terrence J. Rotolo, who does a fantastic job bringing a great balance of bluntness and empathy to the character. Despite the near impossible odds, Frank West rose to the occasion and became a hero to the survivors. His character shifts from only wanting the scoop and not really caring about anyone else, to being determined to both get these people out of here safely and uncover a government conspiracy that created a terrorist plot to destroy the United States and hold those involved accountable for it. Frank West is one of my personal favorite video game protagonists.
Yeah.
He's not a overly buff, super strong protagonist. Okay, that's debatable. He's not a badass, stoic hero from the get-go, and he doesn't always have an answer. He bit off way more than he could chew. But he doesn't let that stop him, and he sees it through all the way to the end. His supporting cast is also written pretty well and all memorable in their own ways. Brad is a great character who's stoic, fearless, and ready to lay his life on the line to get the job done, which he's pretty damn good at. Thinking about it now, him and Frank are very similar. Both start the game as a little unlikable, and we grow to love them as the game goes on, as more of their personality comes out. Brad initially is very antagonistic towards Frank, even resorting to just straight up insulting the dude very early on.
Damn. You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank? A hot-headed, underhanded, hotshot paparazzi with nothing better to do than to invade people's privacy.
But after Frank pushes back and shows that he's not going to back down from that, Brad starts to respect him, and the two form a very competent pair. Brad really shines as a great leader character that can get shit done no matter the cost. Jesse's really the only character that there's not a lot to say about. She doesn't really do much in the game, as out of her and Brad, she's the rookie of the two. She clearly wants to do the right thing, but is totally out of her depth in the situation. Let's not split fucking hairs here. She's really only there for some sex appeal, which, you know, 2006, okay, product of the time and all that. Her optimism and teasing of Frank can help relieve some of the stress of the game, but there's not really much else to say. I kind of wish they gave her more to work with to make her a bit more fleshed out. Not to say that she doesn't have any character, I just wish she had a bit more to do in the game.
Nope. Thanks for showing me though.
Isabella is a great tragic character, initially working with Carlito to execute his plan before defecting and working with Frank, Brad and Jesse once she realizes Carlito is kind of losing it. She clearly wants to uphold the original idea of getting the Santa Cabeza story out, but Carlito doesn't, outraged even at the idea of meeting and talking with Frank about it, leading him to shoot her. This is when she starts working for the good guys and tries to stop him. She clearly has a deep connection with her brother, and it's painful for her to see him dive off the deep end this hard. She vows to try and undo the harm that Carlito has done, developing the first publicly known zombie infection suppressant, and dedicates her life to finding a cure to clear her family name. She's a great character, and her story and personality add a lot to the overall tone of the game as well. You feel sorry for her because she is very clearly remorseful for the part she's played in this and wants to fix it. Carlito is a great villain, there's no question about it. He thinks his plan is completely foolproof, but the minute it starts to show some cracks, he totally loses it. He wants to use the town as an example and threaten the US, but once he learns they're once again trying to cover it up, his spiral begins, which is further compounded when Isabella tries to get him to calm down and stop his plans, which causes him to totally freak out at the thought of her betraying him and shoots her, only further adding to his spiral. He spends the rest of the game apologizing for it, and then as a last resort tries to bomb the mall and launch the parasite into the atmosphere and infect the entire country to send his message. Carlito's death is irony in its fullest. His revenge plot against the US for valuing cattle over human life ends with him dying in a butcher's cool room surrounded by cattle. Also, the butcher is Chinese.
I'm Chinese.
So it's not even an American that kills him, it's a fucking Chinese guy who loves meat. He's got meat tattooed on the back of his fucking neck. In his last moments, he makes the comparison that zombies and humans really aren't that different. All they do is eat and eat. And both destroyed his hometown, sending him to the path of revenge that went too far. As he dies, he gives one last heartfelt apology to Isabella. I don't think this apology is because he's sorry for what he did, but sorry she has to endure what's coming next. He's an irredeemable villain, but you can't help but feel somewhat sorry for him. While he deserves his ending, he did not deserve what happened to bring him to that point. Carlito is the best villain in the franchise, as his actions affect the world of Dead Rising in every game that follows. You can understand exactly why he did all this, and in all subsequent entries, his point of greed being more valuable than human life is proven correct. Dead Rising's protagonist and most of the supporting cast are, for lack of a better word, fantastic!
I understood that reference.
But with its unique set of characters comes its unique gameplay, which is where Dead Rising really shines. Dead Rising features a unique and innovative style of gameplay that really helped it stand out. On the back of the box there's the slogan, "Anything and everything is a weapon." And this rings true. Baseball bat, yep. Metal pipe, yep. TV, yep. Park bench, yep. Big fucking dead fuck off massive fish found in the middle of the lake, yep. Lawnmower, yep. 12-pack of soda cans, fucking why not? There's a huge amount of variety to slay the undead with in the mall, and you can really tailor your experience to whatever you choose to use. Yeah, you can totally use the most overpowered weapons in the game, or you can just not, and make your experience a bit harder in doing so. You may even find a new weapon that you wouldn't have used beforehand that's wildly effective. You can even make weapons more effective by finding magazines in the mall, which boost aspects of your playstyle. You can find ones that boost how much health you restore, increase the PP gained from photography, and the most useful ones, those that increase durability of weapons. You can take that mini chainsaw that originally breaks in 80 hits, grabs these 3 magazines, and now can last for 2,160 hits. They basically kick fucking ass. So grab them whenever you see them. Dead Rising is also an open world game. Once the game lets you back into the mall, you can freely experience everything the game has to offer, and most, if not all, shops are actually open for you to explore in. You can almost always find something cool in a shop, whether it be a weapon, some food, or new clothing for Frank to wear, or magazines too. A big aspect of Dead Rising is food. You can use food to heal, and each piece of food has its own amount of health that it will restore. Predominantly, players will gravitate towards things like orange juice, coffee creamer, and cooked steaks to restore as much health as possible. However, littered throughout the map are blenders which Frank can use to create powerful mixed drinks with different effects. There are 7 different drinks in the game to make: Energizer, Untouchable, Nectar, Spitfire, Zombate, Quickstep, and Randomizer. Going from worst to best, the worst mixed drink is Randomizer. As the name suggests, it gives you a random mixed drink effect. While it can do that, it commonly just makes Frank sick, forcing him to stay in place while he deals with stomach cramps and drops whatever item he's holding. If you needed the extra health in a pinch, it might be useful, but there's no point in using it as it's more trouble than it's worth. There are a couple ways to make it, but any food item and cooking oil will spit this awful idea out if that's what you really wanted. Zombate is next up, making zombies more attracted to Frank for 60 seconds, which can be helpful when trying to escort survivors as they won't be targeted as much by zombies. But it's far easier to just kill the zombies in the way first and inch your way forward. It's certainly more useful than Randomizer, and maybe if you were down to your last weapon it could be handy, but it's not something you're going to carry around. You can make it by using pie, corn, or milk as your main ingredient, I guess, if you want. Spitfire is next, and this is when we can start moving into drinks that are actually kind of useful. Spitfire, as the name implies, turns Frank's otherwise useless spit move into a mouth-powered pistol. It can actually do more damage than the pistol, but can't headshot. It's pretty consistent at killing zombies, but its speed holds it back a little bit. Early game it can be pretty good, but once you know where some of the guns spawn or get access to the gun shop, you'll find yourself crafting this less, save for one specific situation. You can make it using snacks, baking ingredients, zucchini, and condiments, but 2 snacks are commonly how people will do it, as they're the most common. Energizer is next, and when drunk will make Frank invincible for 10 seconds, which for some of these psychopath fights can be really handy. 10 seconds isn't a lot of time, so picking up the cooking book from Entrance Plaza bumps it up to 20 seconds, which is much better. Energizer can be created by using cabbage as its main ingredient. The only reason it isn't higher though is because cabbage only spawns reliably in Scions, and sometimes from cardboard boxes. If it were easier to make, it would probably be second. Nectar's next, and when drunk will have a queen spawn next to Frank and make queen spawns in the world more frequently. This drink is a necessity in overtime mode, as Isabella needs 10 queens to create the inhibitor for Frank. Queens are hands down one of the most useful items in the game, so having it spawn more of them is very welcome. They're easy to make as well, as 2 orange juice will create one, and Paradise Plaza has a blender right next to an infinitely respawning source of them. Quickstep is our runner-up, and when drunk will significantly increase Frank's movement speed for 30 seconds. It's extremely useful early game, as at low level Frank moves as fast as my grandfather and he's fucking dead. It can help you clear Leisure Park within seconds and is pretty easily made. 2 coffee creamer, 2 wines, or 2 milks are some of the more common recipes. There's never really a reason to not have at least 1 Quickstep in your inventory, as it can really be a run saver sometimes. It's great, but it becomes even better when you pair it with the best drink in the game. Untouchable. Untouchable is straight to the point. When drunk, zombies cannot grab Frank. They can take swipes and still do damage, but you cannot be grabbed. This is the best drink in the game, purely for the sole reason of how fucking goddamn annoying getting grabbed in this game is. There is never a point in the game where I get grabbed and don't immediately want to smash my monitor to fucking bits. It's the most annoying aspect of the game, and this drink just removes it. Do yourself a favor next playthrough and just stock up on these. You can make them using pie as the main ingredient, and conveniently, Paradise Plaza has 3 pies next to its infinite orange juice and blender. It's such a good drink, and when paired with Quick Step, you're unstoppable. These mixed drinks are a nice addition to the game, and later entries would add even more to make it more interesting. They can really be run savers sometimes, so it's worth it to remember what food makes what. While you're exploring, why not take a couple of photos too? I mean, you are a photojournalist after all. A unique feature of Dead Rising is photography, a mechanic that's only real purpose is to gain prestige points, or PP, the game's experience. It can be an easy way to rack up some PP, and the game gives you a lot of photo ops that reward a lot of it too. Photos usually fall into 5 categories: horror, brutality, outtake, drama, and erotica for some reason. There are some side missions in the game that require you to get a specific photo, but for the most part it's just racking up points. However, it's still a cool mechanic that reinforces the idea that you're here to get evidence for the story, and can even function as a nice little timeline of your progress. Dead Rising's leveling system, while simple, keeps things fresh as you go to max your stats out. Each time Frank levels up, he'll gain a new point randomly into an attribute or a new hand-to-hand combat skill. I tell you man, once you get that 3rd speed upgrade, you never look back. Some of the skills are extremely useful. Oddly enough, there's a ton of wrestling moves, and others I totally forgot were even in the game. I think it comes down to the fact that some of these skills are so incredibly situational and hard to pull off that it's just not even worth doing them. Stand near the head of a fallen zombie and press left click and space simultaneously, or you could just knee drop the fuck out of it and it's the same thing. Face Crusher is probably the most egregious example of this. Press left click and space simultaneously while pressing on or a combination of movement keys toward a zombie from behind. While it's not impossible to pull off, it's just not that useful. Now how about Suplex? Facing a standing enemy's back, simultaneously press left click and space without pressing movement keys. And then you pick them up and send them flying backward, away from where all the zombies probably are. Like you're just not going to use it. The best skills in the game are Double Lariat, Somersault Kick, and Knee Drop. Double Lariat is ridiculously strong for really no good reason, but goddamn is it fun to use. Somersault Kick can decapitate zombies in one hit, and Knee Drop can be used to negate fall damage, allowing you just a bit more freedom when playing around in the world. Low level Frank is really a pain in the fucking ass to play as, but as you level up, you genuinely do feel like you're getting stronger, and by level 50, you're nigh unstoppable. You could even take out hordes of zombies with your bare hands. However, let's not get too overboard with experimentation, exploration, leveling up, and convincing yourself that that double degree in journalism and photography was absolutely worth it, because you are on a timer, remember? When Frank told the pilot to come back in 3 days, he meant that shit. Dead Rising's most famous and unique mechanic is its timer, where the game will only last
7.2 hours
in real time before one of the game's several endings kick in based on how far you got and what you did. It's kind enough to give you ample time to explore, experiment, and complete side missions, but you always need to make sure you know when and where the next mission is taking place so you don't get caught out. It was a huge point of struggle for a lot of gamers when it first released, as many felt the timer was a pointless addition that only served to stress you out and make it harder for you to actually play the game. Personally, I think the timer is a fucking amazing addition to the game that really helps Dead Rising stand out, as well as adds a lot to the tone of the game as well. It adds a sense of urgency in a game revolving around a situation that's pretty fucking urgent, but there's still enough time to run off and explore if you can manage your time well. It solves a big problem I have with a lot of games where they try and present you a really urgent and serious scenario, and then they let you fuck off for like 2.5 hours doing anything else, and then you can come back and the game still acts like it's an extremely urgent situation. When Brad gets injured in the story, you have to go get medicine to help him ASAP. You can't fuck around for a few hours and then come back to it. That dude is dying and you need to help him. It also forces you to prioritize and think about how you're going to approach the game. You can't just come back to a side mission later, as it might not even be there later. And some side missions actually have different outcomes depending on what time you get there. And when you've got 4 missions lined up at once, it forces you to think critically about how you're going to complete each one, or which ones you might even need to miss. It adds to the game's replayability as well, which Dead Rising is meant for, replaying. all your stats carry over to a new playthrough, or if you totally fuck it up somehow, you can even restart, keep your stats, and start again with a better handle on how the game works. I'm not gonna deny that it is extremely stressful, but that stress, for me at least, fills me with a sense of, oh, this is so fucking doable. This is so unbelievably doable. I can do this. And more often than not, it totally is. And once you overcome it, it feels really rewarding. But it also punishes you for dilly-dallying too much. But it can also be a great test of your skill and knowledge as a player. Basically, I love the fucking timer. I'd marry the fucking timer if I could. I'd have 2 beautiful children in a cottage by a lakeside with the timer if I could. Without it, Dead Rising wouldn't nearly be as memorable as it is today. Side missions also have a time limit and only occur on certain days during the game. Dead Rising has 3 types of side missions. Normal ones, where Otis will call you from the security room, letting you know that he's seen a survivor on the monitors who needs help, and where they are. This is the most common type of side mission, which leads to Frank escorting the survivor back to the security room. Some of them can be a little involved, such as this one that needs you to feed the guy before he comes with you, find this woman's friend who she abandoned out of fear, or convince an old guy that he doesn't need to die here. That just goes on for way too fucking long, man. These escort missions grant Frank a ton of PP, so they're always worth doing, especially when you're starting out, as it can help you level up quite quickly. However, be careful when escorting survivors and taking out zombies, as if you accidentally attack them too much, they'll defect from you. This means they're no longer able to be saved and they'll attack you on sight.
Wait, Nick Evans defected.
This will happen more than you think. Some survivors are either incompetent, old, or injured, and you'll either have to hold their hand or carry them back to the safe room. The worst one of these is when you need to hold their hand, because when you do grab their hand, the game's camera will shift in such a weird fashion that it doesn't make any sense, discombobulates you, and then when you try to get back on track, by the time you've reoriented yourself, the hand has been disconnected. When you're carrying a survivor on your back, it seems that zombies just can't grab you, making one of the most annoying aspects of the game just go away. So, I love them. The main downside of these missions is the survivor AI, which is laughably bad at best and absolutely fucking infuriating at its worst. Sometimes they can just sit there, letting zombies beat the shit out of them until they die, or they have magnets in their fucking hands that attach them to every single zombie in the damn mall. A cool thing is that if a survivor dies due to a zombie attack, a short cutscene will play out showing their death in detail. It goes a long way in making sure you remember that these are meant to be people, not just a game objective. If you don't save them, they're going to die, and these cutscenes enforce that idea. Some survivors even have a little quirk to their AI that the game does not tell you about, which can be very frustrating. For example, one of the earliest pair of survivors you can save are Bert and Aaron will only follow Bert, not Frank. In a great video by Pokesal, he explains that dependent survivors view their paired survivor as a waypoint, and once that waypoint stops moving, so do they. So if Bert is following Frank and Aaron is following Bert, and Bert gets grabbed by a zombie, since Aaron's waypoint has stopped, so will he. Aaron also falls under cowardly survivors, where he is more likely to stop and cry instead of run for his life. You then have to call out for him to stop crying like a bitch and start following again. Contrastingly, Bert is an aggressive survivor, far more likely to just start attacking shit and helps clear a sort of path for Aaron. If Bert gets stopped, he generally just starts attacking everything around him until Frank calls out for him to keep following. There are a couple of survivors like this in the game, but it's never explicitly told to you how this all works. It's a pain in the fucking ass, but in hindsight, I can appreciate the work that went in to make it this complex. Sure, it's far easier in later entries to escort survivors, but if there was any indication on how this system even worked, maybe that frustration could have been avoided. Maybe it would have even opened up the opportunity to develop different specific survivor personality types. But for now, survivor AI in Dead Rising can be fucking frustrating. But no one can even blame you for being frustrated at it, because no one ever tells you how it works. The second type of side mission is requests and mutinies, where survivors you saved will either request things from the outside or attempt to round up survivors to leave as they don't believe in staying in the security room or do anything. There aren't too many of these in the game, but I still think they're cool, and it's only natural for a couple of people to go stir crazy and think they can make a better escape than what's being promised, or look to you for help, as you did save them after all. The third type are the psychopath missions, where, similar to the regular escort missions, Otis will tell you of someone acting strange in the mall or putting someone else in danger. These are the highlights of the game for most people, myself included. They're people who have gone insane as a result of the outbreak, or just genuinely bad people taking advantage of the situation. They almost always have a unique personality to them, or a design that makes them stand out and be really memorable. There are 14 psychopaths in Dead Rising, some of them necessary for the story, others totally optional. More often than not, defeating a psychopath will let Frank save some survivors for easy PP, or drop a weapon that's extremely useful, or flat out fucking broken and overpowered. They also usually have some mad banger of a track that accompanies them and adds to the memorability and impact on the player. Well, I wasn't going to go over them, but fuck it, let's do it. The first proper psychopath of the game is Carlito in the main story mission Back Up for Brad. He'll be shooting at you from the top of the rafters of the food court, repositioning and throwing grenades at you. He's not an easy first fight, especially at low level, and adding the inability to move while aiming, it can make for a frustrating experience first time round. Commonly, people will run out of ammo before they're even close to killing Carlito, but Brad is always there to offer a refill. You're also in the food court, so you can always peel out and heal using the food around. You'll likely be around level 3 or 4, so you haven't got much health to work with, but it's fairly forgiving. The best part about this fight, and this goes for most of Dead Rising in general, is that exploration is rewarded. If you explored a bit in Paradise Plaza or briefly in the food court when you're not getting shot at, you may have found one of the numerous submachine guns in the game that make this fight insanely easy. You can absolutely brute force this fight by running at Carlito, but having a keen eye might tip you off to something that makes it easier for you. Carlito is a pretty inoffensive first fight. He can be frustrating, but it's really not impossible. The same cannot be said for the next psychopath you'll encounter. The convicts are a group of 3 prisoners that escaped and stole a military jeep with a mounted machine gun, patrolling Leisure Park at night, killing both zombies and humans. Their intro cutscene has them choosing to kill at random because who's gonna stop them? They're a group of escaped criminals taking advantage of the situation. They have no redeeming factors, they're just a bunch of dickheads. They kill an innocent man and leave the woman accompanying him to grieve as they continue their joyride. They are a point of immense frustration for a lot of new players and instill a sense of fear into you every time you enter Leisure Park. They can run you over, even hit you if you avoid the car, and if you're too far away, the gunner will gleefully shoot you where you stand. At this point, you're like level 5 or 6, so this is really rough. You're likely going to be in this exact scenario. You've just gone back to Alfresco Plaza to rescue Bert, Aaron and Leah, being injured, requires you to carry her. You think, I'll just cut through Leisure Park and get back to the security room. Soon after, likely having a panic attack at the situation of trying to navigate these 3 dickheads, your own 3 dickheads, and the headless chicken Sophie wandering around the park in fear. More often than not, this will have you dying a panicked, horrid death. Okay. Forcing you to remember that you haven't saved in a while. We have to do the whole thing again. Okay, no, we're gonna be really quick about it, I promise, I swear. They are genuinely a scary psychopath because they can totally floor you in seconds if you're not prepared. The good thing, however, is their AI fucking sucks. 80% of the time, you will see them endlessly crashing into a single tree, unable to get out until you get close enough. For that reason, any firearm will make this easier for you, especially if, like I said earlier, you've explored a little and found some new toys. As well as that, you'll benefit greatly from using Quick Step, which thankfully can be made in abundance in the food court. 2 wines or a pack of icy poles and yogurt and you'll be speeding across Leisure Park in no time. The convicts are also a unique psychopath as they are the only ones that respawn every night at midnight. So once they enter the game, Leisure Park is never really safe at night. However, the one upside, their track fucking bangs. Gone Guru by Lifeseeker is a certified hood classic. If you can manage to defeat them, you can then drive the Jeep yourself. Unfortunately, it's limited to Leisure Park and the maintenance tunnels, but it's still fun to drive around as a celebration. Additionally, you can take off the mounted machine gun and use it for yourself. With 200 rounds of ammo, it's fantastic at clearing hordes. Unfortunately, as it is a heavy weapon, getting hit will make you drop it, and it can't be stored in your inventory. But it's still fun to use and a nice little reward for overcoming these 3 orange-suited dickheads. The convicts are a memorable bunch because every Dead Rising player has their own story about how these 3 ruined their first hour or so of gameplay. While I say that it's impossible compared to Carlito, that's only in the idea that you've been playing the game for the first time. Once you get a bit of a better handle on how the game works and everything within it, the convicts are really kind of a joke. However, their presence, their introduction, and their theme can't be understated. The convicts are a high-tier psychopath fight for a lot of people. The second optional psychopath the game will throw at you is one of its most iconic. Adam the Clown is unanimously one of the best psychopaths in not only Dead Rising, but the whole series in general. He's a clown performer of the mall who lost it after seeing the zombies eat his adoring audience, using the Space Rider machine in Wonderland Plaza to keep the zombies at bay. As Frank is sent to investigate, Adam makes his appearance, telling Frank to stay away from the controls, because the zombies will come back if the ride stops.
And that won't be any fun at all!
You can kinda see why everyone remembers Adam, right? Adam is the face of Psychopaths in Dead Rising. He manages to be creepy, visually interesting, and tragic all at the same time. He's a clown, which most people are already scared of. Add in the juggling dual chainsaws, a creepy laugh, and a great fight track, and showing up pretty early in the game as well, he's memorable for a lot of good reasons, and a few bad ones as well. Namely, he does a lot of fucking damage. He's insanely agile, doing cartwheels and flips all over as he tries to plant his chainsaws into you. If you get too far away, he can either quickly close the distance or start throwing hunting knives at you. Most players will learn one swing is lethal and opt to try and use firearms to deal damage, before being slapped in the face by Adam's clown cock as he blocks your bullets and takes no damage from it. At this point, he seems impossible. However, his main weakness is his balloons that he'll blow up and throw at you. If they hit you, they'll stun you, surely guaranteeing death. But if you manage to shoot Adam as he's blowing them up, and then shoot the balloon as it hits the ground next to him, you'll stun him instead. This is your opportunity to get some damage in or peel out and heal up. Adam seems impossible, but in reality, this fight is pretty easy. After defeating Adam, he falls on top of his chainsaws, cackling away as he dies, with Frank watching on in shock, almost looking like he's trying not to throw up. The keycard for the Space Rider machine floats out on a pool of his blood, allowing Frank to stop the machine. Adam unlocks 2 key things in the game, one being the shortcut from Wonderland Plaza to Paradise Plaza. After stopping the ride, security guard Greg hops off and shows us the shortcut, which is insanely useful, especially considering Wonderland Plaza has the most survivors and psychopaths in the game. The second is the small chainsaw, my beloved, my one true love, my idol. It's one of the best weapons in the game, and it's a great reward for taking Adam down. It deals as much damage as the real Mega Buster, yes, the unlockable weapon. It respawns in Wonderland Plaza endlessly, and as I mentioned earlier, can be strengthened to last 27 times longer than usual. If you pick 2 of these up and the 3 magazines, you can pretty much take them all the way to the end of the game. They're just that good. Adam is my favorite fight in the game. Yes, I know, the Dead Rising community hive mind strikes again, but leave me alone, alright? He's threatening, interesting, and a perfect set piece for them all. He's got all the best aspects of what many consider a good psychopath in the series. He's a performer who just wanted to make people laugh, but after seeing his audience be eaten alive and likely hearing their screams, he snapped and just wanted to keep the zombies out. To be honest, he actually had a point. You'll notice that there are no zombies nearby when the ride is going, but they all appear as soon as you shut it off. Plus, he also unlocks the shortcut and gives you one of the best weapons in the game. He's just all around a fantastic psychopath and deservedly what most people think of when they think of Dead Rising psychopaths. The next psychopath, Cletus, isn't really liked all that much, and I don't blame anyone for it. You can find Cletus in the gun shop in North Plaza. He doesn't get a mission that marks him on the map for you, so you can miss him entirely. He's a distrusting gun shop owner who tries to get Frank and another survivor to piss off and leave him alone, defending him from any potential threats. As the survivor tries to get close to Cletus to reason with him, he shoots him in the chest, aiming at Frank next. This fight sucks. There's really no way around it. It just kinda sucks. Cletus is rocking a shotgun that knocks you down even if one fucking pellet comes within a 50-meter radius of Frank, There's really no cover aside from these display cabinets, and leaving the store itself to try and regroup allows Cletus to heal himself as well. If you think you can just hop the counter and close the gap, wrong fuckhead, that boy picks you up and tosses you out. The only way to really comfortably beat this fight is to use guns, shout out the submachine gun, or just run up to the counter and pray to God whatever weapon you have can both reach over the counter and kill him fast. After you beat him, he starts to scamper away, commenting how you want guns so bad you're willing to kill for them, which is hypocritical since, you know. He runs out of the store to escape Frank, only to be bitten by a zombified version of the guy he shot 10 minutes prior. However, you can't really help but feel bad for him. He was just a shop owner defending what he knew would be a hotspot for people to gravitate towards in this situation. He didn't want to take any chances. He even fired off a warning shot, so if anything, they should have just fucking left. Most players will struggle with this fight when they find it, which is fair, but by beating him, you now gain access to a respawning stockpile of shotguns and hunting rifles, which are insanely good and the only place to reliably get these weapons as well. It's tough, but it's absolutely worth it. We have another fight with Carlito in case 2-2, Rescue the Professor. Carlito has Dr. Barnaby kidnapped and hanging from the second floor above a horde of zombies in Entrance Plaza. Brad and Frank go to stop him, as if Barnaby dies, so does the information he has on what's going on. As Frank enters the plaza, Brad saves him from getting totally domed by Carlito, as the two work together to stop him and save the professor. This is a massive difficulty spike for this early in the game. Carlito is wielding a 50 cal sniper rifle that knocks Frank down and takes off 2 blocks of health per shot. Assuming you're around level 10 to 13, you might be able to take 2 or 3 shots max before needing to hide and heal. It's tough as guts, but thankfully Brad is here to take some of the heat from Carlito, allowing you to pincer him as he's distracted. The only tough part is getting in, but once you're there, it's pretty much a done deal. Carlito, however, is the only psychopath who does not drop either weapon they're using for Frank to use. Which sucks because I would have loved to have used this fucking thing. I think both Carlito fights so far are pretty fun, even if they can be a bit difficult. After defeating him, Carlito tries to escape, with Brad taking chase, firing off bullets trying to stop him. They both manage to shoot and injure each other, with Carlito making his escape, and Brad telling Frank to go rescue the professor. As they come back to the security room, Jesse tells Frank to go find some medicine for Brad to make sure he can recover well, which directly leads into the next psychopath, Stephen Chapman. And what else can I say about this guy besides, "This is my store!" Stephen is a very overprotective manager of Sion's food and stuff in North Plaza. He's taken Isabella captive as she was also trying to get medicine for an injured person. Gee, I wonder who? Stephen thinks both her and Frank are nothing but hooligans here to vandalize his store, which, as he says himself,
"Listen to me, and listen good, partner. I don't allow vandalism in my store!"
Stephen is using a makeshift death machine trolley to ram Frank and deal damage. He can also spin around quickly to reposition himself, and if you manage to get behind him, he can do this stupid fucking donkey kick move. You may immediately think, well, I'll just hop on top of the aisles to avoid him. Wrong! Stephen also brandishes a shotgun that he can use to get Frank down from the aisles. He's not all that hard, but he can easily fuck you up if you're not careful. He's prone to stun locking you, as making contact with the cart sends you flying, sometimes in the perfect trajectory for Stephen to hit you again, and again, and again. But since you're literally in the supermarket, food is fucking everywhere, so it's not that much of a hassle. Stephen also has a great fight song, Fly Routine by Hostile Groove, which goes unfathomably hard. After defeating him, Stephen laments that no one will be there to take care of his store once he's gone. As he dies, he utters a classic retail line,
Have a nice day. Clean up! Register 6!
You know, I don't know if it's because I worked in retail for a long time, but Stephen is one of my favorites because it really does feel like one of those managers that takes everything so seriously and their whole life is the store they work in. But in a way, you can still feel sorry for the guy. The store is all he knows, and with the outbreak, like Cletus, his store is a perfect place for people to naturally gravitate towards. Add in the panic of the entire situation and you've got the perfect storm for him to go insane with. However, his fight is really awkward as it takes place in this really enclosed area. It doesn't work as well as it should. I think if the aisles were just a little bit wider, it would be way better. I don't know, for how thin these aisles are, it makes it really difficult to call it a great fight. I still love it personally, but some of these fights have small things that bring them down a lot. But Steven's only real flaw is that the area his fight takes place in isn't all that fun to traverse. Next is Cliff Hudson, a Vietnam War veteran who's taken control of Chris Lip's home saloon in North Plaza. He's captured several survivors and decorated the store with hanging decapitated zombies from the ceiling. As Frank enters, Cliff confronts him to ask him his name and rank, and when Frank doesn't answer, he's accused of being a Viet Cong member, engaging in a fight. Cliff is one of the more difficult fights in the game. He sticks to the shadows and sneaks up behind Frank a lot. He loves to impale you, which can cause a hefty chunk of damage. He can also drop flares and pipe bombs that stun Frank, allowing Cliff to get an easy follow-up. One of the more frustrating aspects of this fight is Cliff's affinity for hiding in the access tunnels located throughout the store. He'll then reappear randomly to surprise Frank. There's just a lot of waiting involved, which can really bring down the pace of the fight. I love the area in which the fight takes place too. It's really showing how far Cliff's mental stability has gone down since the beginning of the outbreak. While he can cause a lot of damage, he's really not that bad. The only bad part about this fight is that there's next to no food in the arena if you start running low, so it can get a little hairy. Once you manage to take him down, he comes to his senses and explains to Frank that he lost his mind once the zombies came, as they killed his granddaughter, and hearing her scream broke his mind, everything going white. As he dives, he hands Frank the empty store key, and Frank closes his eyes out of respect.
The war, it wasn't over. Not for me. It never ended.
This is one of those moments I mentioned earlier where the game allows Frank to have some genuinely emotional moments that elevate his character. You can feel bad for Cliff as he's a veteran with clear PTSD that went way off the deep end once it all started, and for good reason. His moment of lucidity at the end makes it hit harder as he realizes what he's done, and that line about the war never ending for him hits hard. Cliff is a great example of how Dead Rising can write good, tragic, and emotionally engaging characters, even if they have a short amount of screen time. Cliff also drops his machete, which rivals the small chainsaw for one of the most useful items in the game. You can also save 3 survivors using the empty store key, which will net you a great PP bonus as well. Some of the psychopaths in this game can be a little over the top. I know I sing a lot of praises for Adam, but let's be honest, he is really over the top. Cliff, however, surprisingly enough, and as ridiculous as it might sound, is a bit more grounded. It feels like something that could genuinely happen if something like this were to happen. Someone at the wrong place at the wrong time losing everything and just completely losing his mind. Cliff's fight theme is Slave by the Evolutionaries, which fits his character pretty damn well and goes hard. Our next psychopath is Joe Slade, a corrupt police officer who's taken 4 young women captive to sexually abuse them, jealous of their looks. Joe is one of those irredeemable psychopaths in the game, as she doesn't have some tragic event that makes her act this way. She's just a fat bitch who's taking advantage of the situation for her own sick desires. Her and Cliff are 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to a psychopath. Joe is a bit of a unique fight though, as she has several hostages that she will go and attack during the fight. So now you have to keep an eye out on not only your health, but 4 other survivors to make sure they all get out alive. She hits pretty fucking hard and can take chunks of life off in seconds. Maybe it's just the way I play, but I genuinely had more trouble with Joe than I did Cliff, Cletus, or even the convicts on a recent playthrough. She can kick you, and if you're out of range, she can use her pistol to tack some damage on, and if you get too close, she can pistol whip you, which hits like a fucking semi-trailer, and then use her stun gun to immobilize Frank, and then stomp on his balls. You can exit the store the fight takes place in to peel out and heal, but then you run the risk of Joe killing her hostages, reducing your PP bonus you'll get for rescuing them. And then even if you do keep them all alive, you need to worry about their low health in a part of the mall that has next to no food. After defeating her, she'll keel over and realize that death is on her doorstep, mocking Frank in her last moments as she convulses and dies. Contrary to the other psychopaths we fought so far, Frank seems to have no remorse about killing Jo, which is fair considering she has no redeeming factors about her. Jo is a pretty okay boss fight, but nothing really in particular stands out in order to match up with what we fought already. She doesn't drop any great weapons. The stun gun can be useful against other psychopaths, but when you've got far better options, it's pretty much obsolete. It's not even an entirely unique weapon to Jo either. It can drop from cardboard boxes randomly as well. She has the benefit of being one of the best PP missions in the game, netting you 4 survivors if you can keep them all alive, each giving you 20,000 PP join bonus, and 40,000 each if you can escort them all back. And the 30,000 you get for defeating Jo, totaling up to 270,000 PP. Pretty good for this stage in the game. Jo's fight theme is Heaven's Creepin' In by Supernova Syndicate, which is a pretty great track, even if it's for a pretty weird boss. Around the same time as Jo, a mysterious bunch of figures known as the True Eye Cult start to appear in the mall, with Frank seeing their display in Paradise Plaza. Their leader, Sean, is going to sacrifice a woman, claiming she is tainted and her blood must be spilled in order to stop the outbreak.
A non-believer in our midst.
As he is about to kill her, he notices Frank in the crowd, citing that he is also tainted and must be killed. The cult members are pretty intimidating but go down without too much hassle. You can easily avoid them if you're on your own, but they can fuck you up really fast if you're not careful, being able to charge at you and basically stun lock you until you die or kamikaze themselves at the last resort, which does a lot of damage. The scariest part about them is the sleeping powder, which they can use to stun you and then kidnap you. They then strip you of all your weapons and clothes and get you prepped up ready for a sacrifice. You wake up inside their hideout, needing to escape barehanded. There are a couple weapons in here you can use, but the only way out is by defeating all the cult members in here to get the padlock code. It's really annoying when this happens, so you've got to take them out quick. Once this cutscene plays out, groups of them will now appear all over the mall, and makes traversing it that little bit more scary if you're not prepared. They do, however, net you 500 PP per member, so you can rack up around 12,000 PP for each group you can take out, which is pretty handy if you're looking to up some of your stats. As with anything in the game, they cannot handle the small chainsaw, so light work, really. We'll come back to them later, as there's another part to their story that only crops up later on in the game. The Hall family is up next, and they're really not that interesting. They appear in Entrance Plaza and are a family of 3, a dad and 2 sons, who use sniper rifles to keep you at bay. 2 of them take great pride in their handiwork, killing both zombies and humans without remorse, citing it's their God-given right as an American to use these guns for self-defense. I mean, I guess. The father demands Thomas shoot Frank, and exercise their right to bear arms, who is hesitant as he proclaims that Frank isn't a zombie, and doesn't want to shoot him. This essentially is just the Carlito fight, but way less annoying, as they do piss all damage and take way too long to fire. They run away if you get too close and are prone to walking into walls where you can just beat the fucking shit out of them until you end their family lineage. They just don't have a lot of staying power because not a lot about them makes them stand out. The fight kinda feels half finished because you have no choice but to kill Thomas, the one character who doesn't want to kill you. If we could leave Thomas alive and save him, maybe the fight would be a bit more interesting, but to be fair, I wouldn't want to go with the guy who just sawed my dad and brother in half. We now have my personal least favourite fight in the game, Isabella. During Case 4-2, Girl Hunting, Frank tries to find Isabella in hopes of getting some more information on what's going on here, as Jesse has prevented Frank from talking with Dr. Barnaby about it. He sees her on the monitors outside of Sion's and tries to talk with her before she hops on a cool fucking motorcycle and tries to run Frank over and escape. This fight is a pain in the fucking ass due to the game's janky as all fuck vehicle physics. Isabella's motorcycle is basically glued to the ground, yet can go over terrain that would genuinely be impossible to traverse at the speed she's going. She has the same problem as Steven, where even coming close to her motorcycle will send you in a Tekken-style tornado. If you try to find refuge on the scaffolding nearby, she'll pull out a pistol to get you from below. This fight is hard purely because of how fast she is, and how nearly impossible it is to land a melee hit on her, unless she crashes into a wall and you get lucky. If you get low on health, do not in any way attempt to enter the supermarket literally right next to you, as it will automatically fail the mission and let Isabella escape. This is also one of the few missions in the game where you need to arrive well before the time runs out, as you can beat Isabella and still fail afterwards. It's ridiculous. When you do manage to defeat her, Frank holds her down and prevents her from escaping, where she reveals that she's willing to talk to Frank as he's a reporter. She reveals that the zombies were a message from Carlito and tells Frank to meet back here in North Plaza at midnight for an interview with him, which doesn't happen.
He shot you?
This unlocks the motorcycle for use in North Plaza and Wonderland Plaza, which can be handy in a pinch. This fight is really only memorable for how fucking frustrating it can be, not because it's fun. The next psychopath is Sean, the leader of the True Eye cult. See, I told you we'd come back to him. Frank locates their hideout in Colby's movie land, now teeming with cult members. Frank fights his way to Theater 4, where Sean can be seen praying to a mannequin, with 4 tied up hostages as well. Sean vows to return Frank's tainted blood back to the earth, picking up his sword and attacking Frank. Sean has a very basic moveset, but makes up for it with speed and power. He can attack with his sword, slide kick, sword thrust, and leaping sword attack. Most times, these sword attacks will send Frank flying, making this fight harder than most. All these attacks can inflict massive damage, and his speed doesn't allow you to peel out from the fight easily to recover, as that sliding kick will be used to knock you off kilter if you try to heal. However, this fight feels fair. There's no real bullshit that Sean has to make the fight unfairly hard. It feels like a real one-on-one fight to death. He bobs and weaves, and it literally feels like I'm playing Street Fighter with how perfectly his spacing can be. Just let me rank up Sean, please! Once you beat Sean, he'll crumple in front of his mannequin and pray for the strength to defeat Frank.
Give me strength. I beseech thee!
After his death, the remaining cult members storm the theater to avenge him, which is the last time we'll see them, as killing Sean removes them from the game. Sean is a good fight, and an interesting psychopath, considering that the first time you see him, you can't fight him, and he introduces cult members into the mall, adding another mechanic for the player to work with. It adds a layer of mystique to the game, which I think is really damn cool. It further adds to this absurd scenario of zombie-infested mall, now adding in a cult that is somewhat plausible, you know? I mean, people will take any excuse to try and find salvation in a situation like this, and Sean just knew what to say. After his defeat, you can untie the 4 hostages and unlock the closet room for a grand total of 5 survivors, making this the biggest scoop in the game. Sean drops his sword, which looks badass, and a unique magazine, Brainwashing Tips, which makes survivors less fearful and able to follow Frank better when called. Absolute fucking piss take that this spawns near the end of the fucking game, but better late than never, hey. The only negative I can say about Sean and the True Eye cult is that I wish there was more exploration on what they are and where they came from, but perhaps that mystery is why people remember them so fondly to begin with. Things become less interesting the more we know about them after all. Sean's fight theme is Bored Again by Lockjaw, which is a pretty damn good theme. It goes pretty hard, and I like it a lot. I like Sean's fight a lot. I think he's a great psychopath. Only 3 more left in 72-hour mode. Paul Carson is next, found during the mission Long-Haired Punk. Taking place in Wonderland Plaza, he's seen terrorizing 2 women in a clothing store with a Molotov cocktail. He accuses them of mocking him, and when Frank attempts to enter the store, he knocks over a gasoline canister, startling Paul and starting the fight. This can be either the easiest fight in the game or the hardest. Paul is very fast, and if he escapes the store, you better hope to God you got lucky with the speed upgrades, otherwise this will be a fucking hassle and a half. Paul runs away from Frank predominantly, throwing pipe bombs at you, which makes it hard to close the distance on him, occasionally stopping to light a Molotov that, if it hits Frank, causes him to fly back and deal heavy damage. He also sends little RC cars strapped with bombs to you. If you didn't catch on already, this dude loves to commit arson. If you get lucky and trap him in the store, he can go down very quickly, but seeing him run away is a pain in the ass, so try to keep him in one spot. Once you take him down, he'll try to light one last Molotov to use, before slipping on some gas and dropping the firebomb on his crotch. Paul is a unique psychopath in the idea that you can actually save him and take him back to the security room. You can use the fire extinguisher nearby to put the fire out. Not before taking a photo of it for easy PP, of course. You know, I'm taking a photo of his PP. For PP. After saving him, Paul vows to have a change of heart, saying he doesn't know what he was thinking, and that his arson days are over. You can then open the closet to rescue 2 more survivors as well. Paul is an alright psycho. He's slightly annoying, but still a decent challenge. He's not as sympathetic as some of the others, but you can clearly tell he doesn't actually want to do any of this. During his intro cutscene, he's stuttering and stammering every sentence, clearly nervous about it all, and likely just a nerd who thought the whole world was laughing at him. He's still a prick for it, but his genuine change of heart sets him apart from the others. Later on, if you do rescue him, he can give you access to Molotovs to use for yourself, which are cool, but really just glorified queens that aren't as useful because they can hurt you. Paul has a pretty okay fight theme, but nothing really too special. It's not bad, but when you've got the other tracks like Gorn Guru, On a Mission, and Fly Routine, it doesn't really compare. And now we reach Kent, who can only be accessed by completing his 2 prior scoops, cut from the same cloth on the first day, and photo challenge on day 2. This is a bit of an interesting one, as 2 entirely different fights can play out depending on what time you actually get to the mission. Ken has requested Frank to participate in one last photography challenge to prove who's the best once and for all, coming back to Paradise Plaza at noon to settle the score. If you get to the plaza between 12 and 12:05, Frank will find Kent holding a man hostage, telling Frank he's about to get the best shot yet, the exact moment a human crosses over to zombiehood, throwing a parasite at the hostage before Frank stomps on it to save him. This makes Kent turn hostile and fight Frank. This fight is a genuine joke and will be over in 30 seconds tops, even if you're not using the small chainsaws. It's genuinely not even worth talking about. After defeating Kent, he'll lay on the ground dying, begging Frank to take his picture, handing Frank his camera, to which Frank throws it away and looks on in disgust as the cocky photographer dies. Frank can then save the hostage and get the Camera 2 magazine, which increases PP gained from photos by 100%, which again really isn't all that useful this late into the game. The second variation of this fight occurs if Frank gets to the scoop after 12:05, where Ken has already killed the hostage and used him as a photo op. He gloats to Frank that he thinks outside the box, before taking Frank himself hostage and tying him up, naked in the middle of Paradise Plaza, hoping to get a great shot of his death. This fight is a little tougher considering you have a limited range of movement and are stripped of your weapons prior to the fight, but by this point in the game, Frank is more than capable of taking Kent down barehanded and can even use the benches and pot plants nearby to inflict damage. The same cutscene plays as before, but now with no hostage to save. Kent is very clearly meant to be a twisted mirror reflection of Frank, as both are photographers, one taking the moral route of saving people and focusing on the actual story, the other opting to kill for their own gain and fabricate stories to make it to the top. Ken is just annoying, however, and not an interesting fight. It's a bit of a pain as well, as there's such a short time to save the hostage, and you genuinely won't know this unless you look it up. He's got a pretty nice fight theme, but again, it's nothing really too special compared to what we already have, and it's not enough to bump him up on the list. The second to last fight in the game is one last tussle with Carlito, taking place during Case 7-2, Bomb Collector. Frank is tasked with retrieving the bombs set up by Carlito in the maintenance tunnels, and while doing this, Carlito is chasing Frank down in a truck, throwing grenades at him as well. This fight is another massive problem and a huge point of frustration for players, as it feels so unfair in every regard. There's no cover in the tunnels, filled to the brim with zombies, as you have this dickhead trying to run you over with little time to stop and eat to recover health. He only appears once the first bomb is collected, and it's highly recommended you try and beat him here, as you can somewhat trap him in the corner of the map and take him out. Once you beat Carlito, the truck will tip over, forcing Carlito to flee and make the rest of the mission far easier. There's not much to even say about the fight. There's not even really a fight. You're just avoiding this big fuck off truck and hitting him in the head when you can. The fight is a total pain, and anyone playing the game for the first time will more than likely fail here due to Carlito or running out of time as you try to make your way from bomb to bomb. The final fight in 72-hour mode is Larry Chiang, a Chinese meat butcher who's trying to use Carlito as ground beef. During Case 8-3, Jesse's Discovery, Jesse spots Carlito being dragged away into a meat processing area by one Le Epic Reddit Chunker. Frank makes his way to the processing area to find Carlito being hung up on the meat hook by Larry, who sees him as nothing more than good fresh meat. He sees Frank as a customer and offers to serve him the best ground meat he's ever tasted. Frank tries to defuse the situation, saying he had something a little different in mind, which sets Larry off, thinking he wants zombie meat instead, which is no good as it would harm his reputation, prompting him to turn on the meat grinder. It's now a race against the clock to defeat Larry before Carlito gets ground up. Larry is a tough fight, equipped with a meat cleaver and surprising speed for his large as fuck frame. His most famous attack is his carcass throw, where he'll pick up an entire hunk of meat from the hook and throws it at Frank. He also has a variety of slicing attacks, a shoulder charge attack, knife throws if the distance is too large, and can even grab Frank and hang him on a meat hook and deal more damage while suspended. Larry does a lot of damage and is a great final challenge for 72-hour mode. He runs around the arena screaming, and interestingly enough is even passive towards Frank at the beginning of the fight, until Frank comes and attacks him. There isn't a lot of food in here to use if your health gets low, so make sure to come in stocked up to tank some hits. After defeating Larry, he just dies and isn't really given much else, as Frank hurries to stop the conveyor belt and free Carlito, leading to that emotional scene I mentioned earlier during the character discussion section. I think Larry is a great final fight for 72-hour mode and is the antithesis of Carlito. Carlito hated America for its focus on meat and putting it above human life, whereas Larry is a Chinese immigrant that moved to America and loves meat so much he has it tattooed on his neck. He drops his meat cleaver, which is a weak weapon durability wise, but looks pretty damn cool. Larry's fight theme is On a Mission by Hostile Groove, same band as Steven Chapman. No wonder I love these two fights. The themes are just fantastic.
I understood that reference.
The final, actual final fight of the game is Brock Mason in overtime mode. The tank is not even a fight. I'm not gonna talk about it. If I can fucking play Tetris while beating the fight, it's not worth talking about. Brock is the leader of the Special Forces cleanup crew for Willamette and previously Santa Cabeza. He shows no remorse for anything, admitting that he has a hatred of humanity for their adeptness at making mistakes. He states that if his crew didn't make mistakes during Santa Cabeza, the Willamette incident never would have even happened. He's emotionless and shows no care for the loss of human life for both the incidents and his fellow soldiers who Frank has killed. He simply wants to get the mission done. Any casualties are irrelevant. His tank then automatically locks onto a horde of zombies behind him, giving Frank the opportunity to smack him with a surprise attack while he's distracted. Now Frank and Brock engage on a fist fight atop the tank, surrounded by zombies with only one of them coming out alive. The set piece for this fight is fantastic. I love everything about it. It feels climactic. It's a do or die situation. There's no choice but to fight. There's no healing, and there's no food items, and there's no weapons. I think the idea is great, and it makes for a really, really fantastic final scene. Very reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid. The actual fight? Not so good. Brock has taken a page out of Yakuza 3's book and blocks fucking everything. He feels genuinely impossible to fight the first time around, as he has a lot of counters to Frank's moves. His most common string is 3 punches followed up by a high roundhouse, which sends Frank flying, commonly off the tank. He has a fucking sick axe kick as well, and can get Frank in a stranglehold which gradually depletes his health. If you die from this attack, Brock will snap Frank's neck, which is fucking wild. This fight is tough, as you'll be trying to find openings to attack, only to be met with blocks on blocks on blocks. Add in the fact that it's very hard to dodge his attacks, as there's not a lot of room to work with. If you roll anywhere on this tank, you're more than likely going to fall off. You can sometimes get Brock in a lock of trying to get back on the tank if you can knock him off, and due to the jank of the engine, he just can't do it. and gets attacked by zombies until he dies. You can also drink a Spitfire before the fight so you can stun lock him and beat him easily. Commonly, people will accidentally push Brock into a corner of the tank and start spamming punches. Brock will block every punch, but since he has no room to back up and counter Frank, he'll just take chip damage until he dies. A lot of people feel this fight is bad because it makes you utilize barehanded combat techniques in a game all about using whatever you can as a weapon. I can agree with that, and I think the fight is brought down a lot by how easy it is to cheese. He also shows up literally at the end of the game, so fighting him barely has any weight because we barely know him to begin with. His link with Santa Cabeza is interesting and makes sense, but he pops up out of nowhere when the whole game we were focused on Carlito. But aesthetically, this fight is great, and a great final set piece for the ending of the game. Overall, Dead Rising Psychopaths are a colourful cast, each unique in their own way. Each psychopath is affected by their own internal issues amplified by the zombie apocalypse, which adds a lot to them, and I quite like all of them, except for Kent. Fuck you, Kent, your fight sucks. The whole family and Isabella are pretty bad as well, but hey, they're at least better than Kent. Everyone else though is pretty damn good, with the obvious standouts at the top. Psychopaths are usually always fun to fight, but just make sure you save before you fight them. Don't be like me. Fuck these 3 guys in particular. Once you finish the game, you unlock Infinity Mode, which can be seen as the game's sandbox mode. There's no traditional timer, however, the timer is now Frank himself. Your health will deplete slowly, 1 block equating to 1 minute and 40 seconds in real time. And with full health, Frank will die in 20 minutes, or 4 hours in game. Food no longer respawns, and the only way to get more of it is to kill survivors in the mall who are now all hostile. Yes, that even means Otis, and yes, he's the first one you can fight. This is all fucking calling me all the time. No, don't call me off like that, it's rude, I'm gonna cut your fucking head off. It's a massive endurance test, and a test of your game knowledge as well. Infinity Mode features one of gaming's most infamous challenges, 7-Day Survivor, where you need to last 7 in-game days or 14 real-world hours. Tough, but only in the sense of being tedious and testing your patience, not actual challenge. We got Gwyn.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Clip it! Now do it all over again. Unlockables are a huge part of Dead Rising, with this game having some of the more notable unlocks of the series. There are 2 major unlocks that people are going to look for, both of them requiring extensive work by the player to get. The one most people will probably get first is the real Mega Buster. As the name implies, it's the real version of the toy Mega Buster found within the movie theater. It does a shit ton of damage and usually kills bosses in a few hits, and has 300 rounds of ammo. This is unlocked by getting the Zombie Genocider achievement, which means you need to defeat at least 53,594 zombies. So what you're going to do is essentially start a new game, go through the tutorial, the minute it puts you back into the mall, book it to the maintenance tunnels, get in the car, drive around in fucking circles until the game runs out, and you'll probably get the achievement that way. That's it. The second is the Laser Sword, unlocked by completing 5-Day Survivor, which is 10 straight hours of Infinity Mode. You may ask then, well, what do you get for completing 7-Day Survivor? You get bragging rights and a pair of underwear. No real point, but shit if I do it. Shit if I do it. Dead Rising proved to be one of the most unique zombie game experiences of the early 2000s. And while it's still got some of that signature early 2000s jank to it and a bit rough around the edges, I still think it holds up pretty well today. It didn't conform to conventional game design norms and wasn't afraid to stand out and be different, which worked out well in the game's favor, evident by its post-launch life. Dead Rising was a commercial success, selling 1 million copies worldwide by the end of 2006. Critics gave it favourable reviews as well, giving praise to its sandbox elements and zombie-killing creativity. Of course, critique of the game is exactly what you'd think it would be: the timer, the AI, the save system, and fucking Otis calling you at the worst time possible every single time. These critiques would be fixed and improved upon in later entries, but at least fans and critics alike agreed Dead Rising was something truly special. I love Dead Rising, you know? Oh, no shit, I wouldn't be making a whole video on it if I didn't. Some of the design choices deter people from giving it a good shot, but risky design choices like the timer give games individuality and personality. In a sea of games that all kind of feel the same nowadays, I wish we had more games that took risks like that to really stand out. Or at least the games that do take these risks are more well known and recognized. As with any successful game, Dead Rising also had a couple of ports to other consoles, most famously the Wii port in 2009, Dead Rising Chop Till You Drop. Funnily enough, also built using the same engine used to port Resident Evil 4 to the Wii. Dead Rising and Resident Evil 4 just seem to be eternally intertwined at this point, hey. The port is insanely different to the original as a lot of things needed to be changed in order to accommodate the inferior graphical capability of the Wii compared to the 360. For instance, the size of the mall and leisure park has been reduced significantly. There can only be a maximum of 100 zombies on screen, 1/8 that of the original. There's an increased focus on gunplay over melee, and there's more guns now, most of them just being imported straight from RE4. You can get ammo and reload guns now, which just makes more sense than carrying 5 shotguns in your back pocket, but maybe that's just me. Some of the bosses have been replaced with zombified versions of themselves. One is just missing entirely. Photography isn't even in the game either. Inventory management is more akin to RE4. There are no multiple endings as 72-hour mode and overtime mode are merged into one. There's no timer per se, but each mission the game gives you is timed individually, and getting a good score on these missions can unlock new missions and progress the story. There's a bunch of mini games included now, and zombie poodles and parrots. There's not a lot to really say about the game. It's got a couple of neat ideas, but it's just an inferior port of the original. I think the idea of zombified bosses is a really cool idea that could have been incorporated into future games in the series, and while getting ammo and reloading guns is nice and all that, it's not really needed in the game. Still, Chop Till You Drop is probably worth playing if you wanted to experience Dead Rising in a totally new light. There were also 2 mobile ports of the game, the first in 2008 for Java flip phone, which was received surprisingly well. I can't even understand why this needed to be made. You know, who loves Dead Rising so much they want to play it on their shitty Java flip phone on the morning commute to work? The second was an iOS port of the game that is really odd and
it's not good.
There's no story. You can play as Frank, Brad, Carlito, and Jesse, which admittedly is kind of cool, but everything else is a pain in the ass. Exploring the mall is a pain due to the low draw distance. It's basically just a series of busy work missions. Go here, find this for me. Go here, kill X amount of zombies, and so on and so forth. There's no psychopaths, there's no escort missions, there's really none of what makes Dead Rising unique, aside from using animations and sounds from the games themselves. Stipo has a great video exploring the mobile version, which I highly recommend. It's even weirder because by the time it came out, we already had something way better. Dead Rising 2. Dead Rising 1 was an unbelievably strong start for the franchise, a perfect blend of both horror and comedic elements to create a truly unique experience. It was special, and because of how special it was, of course a sequel was to come. However, as we move on to Dead Rising 2, some of the cracks will start to show that spelled the downfall of the Hey man, what's up? Yeah, I'm still doing the Dead Rising video. I actually just finished it, yeah. Yeah, the one with the vision board with all the red yarn connecting all the dots and shit. Yeah. Change it. Why? Outdated? The fuck do you mean outdated? Dude, look, I know we have this running joke that every single time I make a video, even if I think that there's never going to be any new information on the topic, something happens that completely fucks up the entire structure of the video I'm making. I know we have that joke and it's really funny, right? but I'm 100% certain that's not gonna happen this time. We haven't had a new Dead Rising game in 8 fucking years. Do you really think they're just gonna pull a new game out of their ass out of nowhere while I'm making the video? Come on, man. What the fuck do you mean a remaster?